Hello there, I'm Paul Ray, and today I'm answering a question recommended by a viewer. I should say it was recommended repeatedly by a very, very, very persistent viewer. The question revolves around Stiles inside the Wild Hunt in Season 6, and when it first came up, I honestly didn't think there was an answer. But while I was researching, I discovered I was wrong. Not only can I answer this question, I've rediscovered what may be Teen Wolf's most underrated comedy duo in Peter Hale and Stiles Stilinski. If you enjoy these trips back to Beacon Hills, hit that subscribe button and maybe even the bell so YouTube can let you know each week when I post new content. Now, we didn't get near enough Stiles and Peter scenes in my opinion. The first big one was very funny, but it was all wrapped up in the emotion of finding Scott and the always present danger that Peter might snap and kill Stiles. But the material is laugh out loud when you watch it back, knowing how everything turns out.
Whose car is this? Belonged to my nurse. What happened to your nurse?
Oh my God! The chemistry between these two. Mwah.
Where do you live?
On an underground network of caves hidden deep in the woods.
Whoa, really?
No, you idiot. An apartment downtown.
I'll be honest, the chemistry between Stiles and every character was pretty amazing, but something about the combination of defensive and offensive sarcasm here mixes really well. And unfortunately, this combo was on display only a handful of times throughout all the series.
How old are you now?
Not as young as we could have been, but not as old as you might think.
Okay, that was frustratingly vague. How old are you?
I'm 17.
See, that's an answer. That's how we answer people.
Keep in mind that by the time we find them together in the Wild Hunt, Peter had been away from the show for like 25 episodes, and we'd not seen Stiles since he was taken by the Ghost Riders. So when this episode debuted, I was so caught up in my emotions over seeing these characters again, I actually missed some of the important nuances that turned out to be very important to the plot. First, it's important to establish the canon here. This train station is a physical manifestation of a non-corporeal plane of existence that isn't inside the Wild Hunt, but also isn't in the real world. We are between dimensions here, and everything you see, benches, the arrivals and departures board, the ticket booth, the train tracks, the doors and speaker system, it's all part of the connection between our world and the Wild Hunt. The tracks represent the path between worlds, and that speaker and radio equipment are whatever force is maintaining the barrier between the dimensions. Now, we learned all about this in Season 5 with the Dread Doctors and their use of vibrational radio frequencies.
You're on a frequency you can't possibly imagine.
It becomes clear later in Season 6 when the Ghost Riders, or Douglas and the Ghost Riders, plug Corey into all this machinery. He's the only character capable of seeing and touching things beyond the barrier. So plugging him into it allows the real world and the station to fully merge. Oh, I went down a rabbit hole there. Bottom line, the train station is multidimensional concepts masquerading as physical objects. Oh, wait, one more thing below the bottom line. It's also important to point out that we catch up to Stiles immediately after he was taken back in episode 1 of Season 6. The train station is all wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey, so I won't go too much into that, but it's sufficient to say that time is passing much more quickly outside the train station. So this episode is showing everything that Stiles was doing from the start of the season, and it's all happening on the same day from his perspective. Okay, I think that's it for the fictional science stuff. In this in-between space, we find Stiles and Peter. Stiles becomes self-aware because the keys in his hand are a relic that connects him back to the real world. It reminds him of his past, which the others here seem to have forgotten. Peter then sees Stiles and becomes more aware, but after the writer leaves, Peter quickly reverts back to the waiting for a train coma state of the other passengers.
I'm waiting for my train.
Stiles slowly wakes him up by forcing him to think about the situation logically. Eventually, the memories come back and Peter is fully awake and returns to his good old snarky self.
This looks like the underground lair of a press bureaucrat.
Now, I could run through all their one-liners, but we should really just go back and watch the whole episode again. Okay, maybe just one more.
Take your time. No rush. Only thing at stake is any evidence of our existence, soon to be lost. Forever. Okay, not helping.
Love it. Now, on to the question that started this whole thing. How did Stiles know to tell Scott and the Scooby Gang to go to Canaan? I mean, he had a lot of choices on that board, and they're mostly all ghost towns or areas of the world that saw a dramatic drop in population at some point. But Stiles picked Canaan, and the only explanation I can come up with is that Stiles and Peter are psychic bros. No, wait, now it's not all that crazy. Stiles obviously picks up on Peter's strong reaction as Peter is reading down the list of towns.
What is it? What are those places? Bannock, Canaan? I know you know something.
Stiles specifically mentions Canaan out of all the choices because he realized Peter was reacting to that part of the board. The fact that Peter is suddenly willing to try the portal is significant because Stiles knows that Peter would not do anything that might get him killed unless there was no other choice. There's also the heartwarming bit about Malia, but the flashback shows Peter actually saved his own skin at Eichenhaus rather than helping Malia, so I did not get the same he's doing it for his daughter vibe that Stiles was picking up here. No, Peter knew that one of the towns on the board had been fully consumed by the wild hunt, and he realizes that the only reason for a way station like this one to exist is if the hunt got stuck for some reason. Peter would have been a little kid when all this happened in Canaan, but it might actually be legendary among the supernatural community. I mean, he knew all about the wild hunt, and he would have heard how they took everybody in a single nearby town. So Peter gets out, and Stiles stares at the board. He mentions Canaan 2 more times before it really clicks in his brain.
Bannock, Canaan, Beacon Hills, Canaan.
Of course, in reality, Stiles had already heard of Canaan once before.
Like how a month ago Canaan PD helped you get home after blowing a .1 on a breathalyzer.
Yeah, this was back in season 4, and obviously it wasn't about the same Canaan, because the one in season 6 was taken by the Ghost Riders back in the 80s, so they wouldn't have a police department. The fact they reused the name is actually just another in a line of Teen Wolf production mistakes. I'm thinking this one was due to turnover in the writer's room and a general lack of interest in continuity throughout the run of the show. Either way, in this moment, in this multi-dimensional train station, Stiles' only connection to the name Canaan was through watching Peter react. So, while this isn't a definitive answer to our viewer's question, it appears to me that Stiles picked up a psychic vibe from Peter's freaking out and then relayed it to his friends to send them to the other local Ghost Rider ghost town on the list. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching, and while you're here, do all the YouTube things, like the video, comment with your theories on why Stiles picked Canaan or whatever you want, and subscribe if you feel like it. I'll see you next time we go back to Beacon Hills.